Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So here's another deck profile for you guys today. This time it's on Branded Chimera. Now this is a deck that caught my attention just very recently, ever since Duelist Nexus came out. And I believe the guy who built this deck and got first place as a local was Joshua Jones, so shout outs to him. And that, yeah, he basically just inspired me to build this deck myself, because like when I saw what the combos did and like what kind of end boards this deck can end on, I was like shocked. I was like, oh my god, this is actually a pretty strong engine, not just for Branded in general, but for any fusion deck that wants to take advantage of this engine. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. Also, just real quick, I wanted to apologize for my long absence. I've just been so busy lately with renovations, and I just haven't had any time to really post any content. Plus, there were just some various other things that just came up, so that just kind of like ate up my schedule. So again, I apologize for my long absence. I promise to bring you guys more content this month. So yeah, anyway, let's go and get started. Now, my main deck is actually 50 cards, where Joshua Jones's build was like 48. It's only just a few minor differences compared to his, but you'll see what I'm talking about momentarily. But anyway, starting off with the main deck, playing 3 copies of the new Mirror Sword Knight. So Duelist Nexus gave us a new type of monster called Illusion Monsters. For those who are unfamiliar with this deck does, they essentially have a gimmick where if they battle a monster, neither can be destroyed by that battle, so they all generally have that clause. But this is the part where Sword Knight becomes really cool. You can use each of the following effects of Sword Knight once per turn. Quick effect, you can tribute this card, special summon one monster from your deck that mentions Chimera Fusion except itself. And keep in mind, this is a quick effect, so like if your opponent tries to like negate it immediately on summon with an effect veiler or imperm, you can just quickly dodge it. Now, of course, it is susceptible to Ash Blossom, but this is actually the reason why we run the branded package, because, you know, it's just good for follow-up. But anyway, when an opponent's monster activates its effect while you control a Chimera, the flying mythical beast, quick effect, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard, negate that effect. Of course, they have to control that monster on field, so just bear that in mind. So yeah, but overall, Sword Knight is a really strong card. Next up, we're going to be playing its counterpart, Cornfield Kotal. Now, what this card does is that, darn it, you can discard this card and then add one monster that mentions Chimera Fusion. So basically, you're going to use this to search out your Mirror Sword Knight. And of course, quick effect, if this card is in your graveyard while you control a Chimera, the flying mythical beast, if your opponent targets a card you control, you can banish this card, negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. So it's a good way to like deal with like a perm and effect veiler or anything that just targets in general. So like, yeah, Cornfield Kotal is really good as a strong defensive option, something that the deck generally needed, because like Branded in general, like the only real ways to out like imperm or effect veiler were cross out designator, but now you have a genuine way to like protect yourself, especially because like bringing out the one of the new Chimera Fusion monsters, it's just like super strong. So like you have ways to like protect yourselves guaranteed. So yeah, like I really like what this card can do. Next up, 3 copies of Gazelle, the King of Mythical Claws. Now this is the card you're going to generally summon off of Mirror Sword Knight. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 level 5 Fiend or monster or 1 Chimera Fusion from your deck to your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard as material for a fusion summon, you can add 1 illusion monster from your deck to your hand, which in this case, you're most likely going to search out your Cornfield Kotal. That's just great follow-up, because like the order is that, yeah, if you open up Kotal, you discard it, you bring out your Sword Knight, and then Sword Knight will special summon your Gazelle. And as I mentioned, you can with Gazelle, you can either add Chimera Fusion, and if it's already in your hand, then the next card you're going to search out is going to be Big Wing Baphomet. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 level 4 Beast monster and or 1 Chimera Fusion from your deck to your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except fusion monsters. No big deal, because we do play fusions anyway. So anyway, moving on. If this card is sent to the graveyard as material for a fusion summon, you can target 1 illusion monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So in which case you can summon back your Mirror Sword Knight or your Cornfield Kotal, probably your Sword Knight more, because it is a light monster, and because we are playing Branded, light monsters are important. Next up, 2 copies of Edgem Chain. I mean, we are running the Fight for package. You definitely want to take full advantage of polymerization, since we are playing Guardian Chimera. It also helps the fact that Edgem Chain is a Fiend monster, which is going to be pretty important later on, so I'll explain more in detail about that. But if this card is sent to the graveyard by an effect, you can add another Fight for card, in which case you're going to search out your Fight for Patchwork, basically get it ready for the next turn. Now we're moving on to the Branded engine. 2 copies of Aluber. You know, since it's primarily a Chimera deck, you don't really need 3 of these, but if you want to play 3, you could, but I think 2 is just fine. You can easily bring this off of Branded opening anyway. 2 copies of Fallen of Albaz, you know, since again we are playing Branded Fusion. For the 1-us, I'm still running 1 Cartesia, one Guiding Quim. I believe Joshua Jones was not running this. I guess because you don't technically need it, but I still like to run it as just an additional target for like Branded Lost or Branded Opening, because this does count as a Despia monster. So yeah, that's just kind of like my way of doing it. One Spriggan's Kit, it's a beast monster, and also, you know, cycles back cards, which is nice. One Mercurier, you know, great for negation, and a searchable target for Branded Lost. Speaking of which, moving on to the Bestial package, one Labellion, which it instantly activates Branded Lost on field. One Magnemite, one Druisworm, and one Souvenir. I'm not running Baldrake just because like I felt like the original 4 Bestials are probably going to be the best choices to play right now anyway. And plus, like, they're just good for utility purposes. So yeah, like the Bestial package, I think one of each is just fine. For the hand traps, running 3 copies of Ash, you know, just a great disruptor. And 3 copies of Nibiru. Nibiru in this format is actually really strong, so it's like really not a bad idea to play it in the main. And it's also a light monster, so if you like you need something for Branded Fusion, well, there you go. But yeah, like Nibiru is just like a really powerhouse of a card, so definitely something to consider. But yeah, that rounds up our monsters. Now moving on to spells. Running quite a good number of 3-ofs, so like starting off with the new Chimera Fusion. Now this card is actually pretty busted, mainly because it's not technically a once per turn. So I'll elaborate just a second. So during the main phase, you can fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material, including a beast or a fiend monster, which case like Edge and Chin, like I mentioned earlier, it helps the fact that it is a fiend monster. So in case you don't have Baphomet, that's literally going to be your next best second choice. And of course, during your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, while you have Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast on your field or in your graveyard, you can activate one of these effects. You can add this card to your hand, and the second effect would be banish this card, and if you do, special summon 1 Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beast, or 1 Baphomet from your deck or graveyard, but of course, you're not going to use that effect. Now, that part of the effect is the once per turn clause. So, like, yeah, the banishment, so, like, you can literally, like, keep activating this card as many times as you want, and continuously add to your hand so long as you control a Chimera, so, like, yeah, this card is pretty nuts. So, like, yeah, it's spammable. It also, the fact that it's a quick play spell is even more broken. So, yeah, Chimera Fusion, definitely something to play at 3 of. Next up, 3 copies of Branded Fusion. Obviously, you know, just so, because we are running the Branded Core, definitely something to play at. Next, 3 copies of Branded Opening, which literally, you mostly just use it for its graveyard effect, but of course, its effect to special summon an Owlbird directly from deck is, you know, something to consider too. And this plus Edge and Chain is pretty broken too, because like you can essentially get Fright for Package and just like plus off of it even more. But I like the fact that Branded Opening literally protects any of your fusion monsters from destruction. So yeah, it's really cool. Of course, 2 Fright for Patchwork, 2 Polymerization. What's also cool is that you can actually cycle back your Polymerization really easily in this deck, which I'll get to momentarily. But yeah, I really like this package. 1 Branded Lost, 1 Called By. And for our trap cards, playing 3 Imperm and 1 copy of Branded Retribution. I actually still like playing this at least at 1, simply because it's just good for, you know, the fact that it can negate an effect that includes the ability to special summon by cycling back your Branded Fusion monsters, and also the fact that it also recycles your Branded spells or traps. So if you need to get Branded Fusion back to your hand, well, this is a card to do that. And plus, you can easily dump this off of Saronir's effect too. So yeah, I really like it. For my extra deck, let's start with the new card. Playing 2 copies of Chimera the King of Phantom Beast. Now this card's name becomes Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast while on the field or in the graveyard, so that's why like Chimera Fusion is just so broken this way. Requires 1 beast, 1 fiend monster, so super easy to make. It's not very specific on its fusion material, so like we do have the options. When this card is fusion summoned, or actually if this card is fusion summoned, you can activate this effect. During the end phase of the turn, you can send 1 random card from your opponent's hand or from your opponent's hand to the graveyard. And during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, and then you can target 1 beast, fiend, or illusion monster in your graveyard, special summon it. Now, this is really good because Chimera states that it sends 1 random card from your opponent's hand, not discard. So, like, and this is important because, like, if your opponent plays hand traps, now they're gonna have to be like really careful on what to hand trap. Well, when to throw down a hand trap against you, and if they are if they don't hit you successfully, Chimera can essentially just like lessen their hand even more. And the fact that, like, let's say you were up against Dark Worlds, they don't get to kick off their effects at all because they're not discarded, they were sent. So yeah, Chimera is really strong for this purpose. So yeah. Next up, 2 copies of Guardian Chimera. I figured, you know, since we are playing polymerization, why not run this at 2? And the fact that it just can't be targeted while polymerization's in your grave, so why not, right? 2 Mirror Jade, you know, really broken card. One of my personal favorites, honestly. 1 Albion, 1 Lebellion, 1 Rinbroom, because, you know, we are running beasts. Still running 1 Grand Guignol. Bringing out Cartesia off of Branded Loss is relatively easy. And plus, you could always just send Cartesia off of Branded Fusion and just get it back later. So yeah, it's never hard to make this card whatsoever. Playing another new card, 1 Chimera, the Illusion Beast. Now this is actually, between this and the other Chimera, I kind of like this one the most. Requires 1 Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, which is the new one, and 1 plus illusion monsters. This card's name also becomes Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, while on the field or in the graveyard. This card can attack monsters up to the number of times each battle phase, up to the number of materials you used for it. So like, let's say you use 2 illusion monsters, you can attack twice, but only against monsters. And if this card battles a monster, neither can be destroyed during that battle. And at the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can change that opponent's monster's attack points to 0 and negate its effects. And keep in mind, that is actually a permanent effect. So like, yeah, you can basically OTK your opponent fairly quickly this way. It's just like, or just like basically just get a free win just by like, yeah, powering down monsters. So yeah, Chimera, the Illusion Beast is actually pretty busted. So yeah, I definitely like it. Next up, another new card we're playing is Magnum the Reliever. This was also in Duelist Nexus. And this card's actually pretty cool too. Requires 1 special summon monster from the extra deck plus 1 monster from the hand, so easy to make. You can target 1 polymerization spell or fusion spell, place it to the bottom of the deck and draw 1 card. When another card or its effect is activated, quick effect, you can banish 1 polymerization spell or 1 fusion spell from your graveyard, target 1 card on the field, destroy it. So it's really good for disruption. And of course, this is a hard once per turn, but yeah, I definitely like it. It draws you cards and it also pops cards. That's insane for a card. 1 Garura, mostly just send this off of Grand Guignol or Mirror Jade, depending like what my hand looks like. But again, just a good card to draw another card off of. It's a great super poly target, which we do play on the side. Same thing with Mud Dragon, and of course 1 Dragus Depelia. And that pretty much rounds up our extra deck. For the side deck, it's pretty self-explanatory. I'll start off with 2 copies of Joel Lockbird, you know, one of the most popular cards in the format right now. Joshua Jones played the Gameciel, but personally I prefer Radiant just because, like, again, it's a kaiju, it's a fiend. Like, you can definitely take advantage of that a little bit more than Gameciel in my opinion, but it's really all about preference. 3 Cross Out if I need them for any, like, back row heavy strategy. 1 Cosmic Cyclone, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, 2 Super Poly, and of course 2 copies of D-Barrier. Like, this deck just has a lot of diversity, so if I'm up against like a very synchro heavy strategy, I'll call it synchro. If I'm dealing with an Xyz based strategy, I'll call it Xyz. Just don't call fusion because that hurts you too. So, but I also like the fact that it's a good cross out target. So like, if my opponent tries to hit me with this card, I can just like cross out Designator and just prevent him from using it. So yeah, D-Barrier has some utility here. But anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll catch you guys again next time.